right, so a few nights ago, while I was three sheets to the wind, it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and I still couldn't go to bed. I started thinking about making a video because I was watching The Epic Economist, and I've already made one video. I don't know if you guys have seen that one yet, because I pre-made a lot of videos already. Everything for next week and the week after that is already made. But I gave it this prompt. Can you combine my style with The Epic Economist? And it came back absolutely. And so its title for this video is going to be The Collapse Isn't Coming, It's Already Here. And I have to agree with that title because in a world in which you work and work and work and never get ahead, it seems like at some point the system broke and the world just became one giant slave planet. So here's our cold open style. You ever wake up and feel like you missed something? Like the world ended 5 years ago and nobody told you because you were too busy trying to afford eggs. We keep hearing about the collapse like it's some far off sci fi future. Nah, it's now. You're living it. And your reward for surviving it, clocking into a job that treats you like a half broken appliance. Welcome to the corporate apocalypse. Hope you brought your own lunch. Also, I hope you brought some Advil or some Tylenol because Pound Town is always open for business. Thank you, Grim, for coming up with Pound Town. I love the expression, and I'm going to use it in every single video. So Pound Town and Evil Corp are now going to be used synonymously. All right, so here we go. AI isn't coming for your job. It already took it. You just haven't been fired yet. Corporations are quietly restructuring, automating, outsourcing. You're not being replaced next year. You're being phased out today. I mean, that in itself. How many people do you know that have lost their jobs? People like Astra, who has lost her job repeatedly and has been trying to find a minimum wage job now for the past few weeks, I think. There's nothing she can do to get out of the way. She went to school. She has a STEM degree. She works in tech. I think she's a programmer. No matter where she goes, she's losing her job because what she went to school to learn and the kind of jobs that she can get, well, they don't exist anymore. And there's going to be tens of millions of people who were white collar proles and are going to find themselves in a situation in which their corporation is going to find a reason to get rid of them because they're inefficient. And this isn't something you can just upskill yourself to. And this is something that I absolutely can't stand when politicians talk about older Americans needing to upskill themselves. Imagine you've worked in the same industry your entire life. Let's say you're a dock worker. A few months back, I did a video on what was going to happen to the dock workers. And just like in China, all of the docks are automated, right? They're being run by machines. And if you don't think that the owners of those docks don't want to get rid of all of those workers, you'd be crazy. Automation makes money. You're not paying your workers anything. But not having to pay them at all is the wet dream of every business owner in the world. That's why we had things called plantations. Because if you wanted to get rich, well, you're not going to get rich if you have to pay your workers. You're going to become unbelievably rich if you can get away with not having to pay for labor. In a sense, you're getting rid of the proletariat because the proletariat can only do one thing, right? The proletariat exists because work exists. If there is no work, then why would the proletariat even need to be around? Because they're not necessary. And what's happening in our current society is that evolution, that revolution, the AI revolution, where we're going to get rid of the thing that rich people hate. and that's the cost of labor. Because at this point, if jobs are paying next to nothing, if you're having to waste an entire 160 hours a month at your job and you're not comfortable because it's not enough money, the wages are too low, or maybe you're just not getting the hours. Because when I worked at Walmart, the standard work week could be anything between 19 and 31 hours. That's it. And 19 to 31 hours, I believe I was making $9 an hour, was not enough money to survive. Even if you had a significant other that didn't mind the humiliating nature of having their significant other work at Walmart too, it still wouldn't be. In fact, I just had a comment this morning from a parent of Gen Z who understands that their child is probably never going to get to a point in which they make enough money so that they can live on their own. And I remember talking to a woman at work, this must have been a couple of years ago, and she was so adamant that her children needed to stay with her. Whether they decided to start families or not, she would invite their significant other, whether that be girlfriend or wife, to live in their house. Because she understood that throwing her Gen Z child out to the wolves would mean that they would probably become homeless. When I was a kid, I was told nearly every single day that I was alive that as soon as you're 18, you're getting kicked out of the house. During the 80s, maybe even during the 90s, this was such a common expression, but it made sense back then. You could have an entry level job. A corporation might even train you to do something, but that time is long gone. The $14.75 Arizona minimum wage isn't going to provide you a life. In fact, I would say that at the minimum wage or $20 and below, the only thing that you can really afford is living in your car. That's my future, living in my car. Because the chances of surviving at Evil Corp are basically none. They are coming to get rid of your job, and once they get rid of your job, you're gone. And I think a lot of people have the same idea. It's like, I have no stability with my work, and I need to plan ahead for what's going to happen to me. Living in your car is something that many of us are going to have to learn to do. Because you guys, in the last live stream, I talked about Claire on the Road. She's a relatively new upcoming YouTuber. And I talked about her in a live stream and in a video. And she actually reached out to me in 2 videos already about her experience with having to leave the place that she could afford to live. A place like this, a rundown piece of crap for $2,000 a month. And I think she's small enough so that she could live in a small car, right? But could you imagine if she was 300 pounds trying to live in a Geo Metro? I mean, I saw this guy. This guy lives down the street from me, right? I've seen his little Geo Metro before. He lives down there, I'd say a couple streets down. And this guy is probably the size of the inside of that tiny Geo Metro. If that guy had to move into that car, there's no way he could do it. But if you're small enough, you can. All right, I'm off on a terrible tangent. I still have 2 more talking points, and here we go. Survival wages in a luxury economy. 63% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Meanwhile, the rich are buying bunkers in New Zealand. Groceries are up 30%. Rents are up. Wages flat. This isn't inflation. It's extortion. I have to agree. Inflation is where you can kind of keep up with it. Extortion is when you go to the grocery store and you realize that your paycheck and those eggs, they don't live in the same universe anymore. Yesterday, I had to go get my crippled acquaintance some groceries. We bought the most basic stuff. We bought, I hate this, I hate to admit this, we bought tampons, basics. You're not going to eat it, but you need it. Eggs, cheese, pasta sauce. I mean, the simplest toothpaste. We had maybe one bag of groceries and it was $75. How the hell are you supposed to make it when you make $14.75 an hour? That's what she was making part time at the only job that she could find. And she can't even go back to that job because she's crippled now because of surgery. And so you ask yourself this question. These people know what things cost, but they simply do not care because we are living in a luxury economy. Drive around your city and look for an apartment complex or area that's building affordable housing. It doesn't exist. They build for the people who have money. They build more and more luxury condos, apartments. They don't build homes because affordable housing, in their opinion, is where I'm living right now. This rundown, roach infested places like where Claire lived. I mean, she showed a very mild version of her cockroach infestation. At my last rundown piece of crap apartment, they were everywhere. I could lift up anything in my house, whether it was my shoes, something in the kitchen, the rug, anything that I lifted up in that house had roaches underneath it. I could smell the roaches, dead roaches, when I opened my front door because they would get into the electrical stuff and they would get fried in there. They love warm electronics, like surge suppressors. They love living inside of it. In fact, the surge suppressor that I had in my house at my last house was so covered in cockroach feces that I had to grab it with a plastic bag and go take it outside because no matter how many times I shook it, more and more roaches kept coming out of it. It was that disgusting. It was literally just a mat of roach crap. Anytime I set out roach traps on my kitchen counters, the roaches would come out of the walls and get stuck in there. And if you don't believe me, those videos still exist on my TikTok. I think I've only uploaded like maybe 20 things onto my TikTok because I stopped uploading when the TikTok was going to get banned in America. So I don't even know what my login is anymore. I don't think I took it off my phone at that time too. So that's why I haven't uploaded more TikToks. Besides, TikTok is brain rot. Talking point number 3. You work more, you own less, you rest never. Vacations are mythical. Retirement a punchline. Even the weekend is dying. All the hustle just to stand still while CEOs fly private and talk about resilience. Um, why is that? I was telling someone, who was I? I was telling a school president at another state this week that what ChatGPT came up with the title. It's like I think what was the title? The title is you have no job safety, but neither does your boss. And she told me she went into a meeting a few months back, and that's exactly what the head of the company said to everyone sitting in that room. No one in this room sitting with me right now has any job security that works here. Can you imagine hearing that? Can you imagine 30 people who run the entire evil corp being told that by the leader? You don't have any job security here. I mean, talk about demoralizing people. There's been a reason why no corporation can really hold on to anyone. And the people that are out there looking for the jobs that don't exist, right? You have people out there submitting resumes to ghost jobs that aren't getting calls back. I just did a video about this the other day, and you guys told me in the comments, You guys have submitted hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of applications. So have I. How many times have I heard back? Zero. Why? Because they're not actually hiring. When I worked in retail, both at Kroger's and Walmart, they didn't hire. They took applications. And once one of their workers bid it, then they'd go look and see who was the best, who had the best application. And you guys keep leaving comments about the Walmart personality exam in order to get a job there. They want a very specific kind of person. They want someone that's so mentally broken, but can still function sufficient to work in a Walmart. They're not looking for ambitious people. I mean, I've been told so many times that Target does the same thing. They don't want to hire someone with a master's degree to make $14.75 an hour. They know that person will never become invested. They want to hire these people that work at the Kroger's by my house. People that started working there in high school, people who didn't go to college, people that had figured out some way of scraping by on that little bit of cash. That's who they want. They don't want someone in there who actually has ambition. And I'm seeing this sort of change in society. I've been seeing it a long time, where ambition used to be rewarded. Now they don't want ambitious people. They want people coming into these jobs that have full training. They don't want to waste time training you. They don't want you thinking about another job. When I worked in retail, even talking about leaving the job was sufficient so that they would start targeting you with hours. There's this girl that I know that works at the Kroger's. She resigned one day because she couldn't take it anymore. And they cut her hours to 1 day every 2 weeks. And I see her maybe once a month now. In fact, I saw her. When was the last time I saw her? Last time I saw her was Sunday. And the look on her face is like, I graduated from high school last month, and this is the best that I can do. And she's told me she's applied at a lot of other places, and no one was going to give her a job. Because, as I've said hundreds of times on this channel, if you don't want to go to college, and college is the cover charge for entry-level jobs, and we're not talking entry-level good jobs, we're talking about entry-level bad jobs. It's almost a catch-22 situation. It's like, well, you need to go to college, but if you go to college and you can't get a job that pays you well enough to pay off your student loans, you're kind of stuck in this horrible limbo as well. It's getting to be a no-win situation out there for the vast majority of people who need work. So this is something different that ChatGPT's never put into one of these scripts. It says mid-video storytelling break. So let's see what it wrote. I remember going to work sick, like fever, chills, and my body felt like bricks sick. But I still showed up because missing 1 day meant I couldn't afford groceries that week, and no one cared. The boss didn't even look up from her screen. That's the reality. The machine doesn't care if you're dying, just as long as you show up to to get murked slowly. This reminds me, and I'll bring up this example from a few months back. There was that old lady that worked at Wells Fargo, and she returned to office, and life murked her because she was old, right? But like most of us, I'm talking about you and me, she was in her cubicle for 4 days, having passed on. And it wasn't until someone noticed the smell that someone came to check on this little old lady. No one else in the world cared enough to find out where she was, why she hadn't come home in 4 days, why she wasn't answering her cell phone. The smell had to give her away. And that smells all over you and me because she smelled like a prole. She smelled dirty, disgusting. One of us, the unwashed masses. and not one person in the world cared enough. And this is exactly what I say at every job I've ever been. I've been homeless and working more times than I can count on one hand. And when I complained about this to the management, they would say, well, it's not our fault. Your financial problems are not the responsibility of Evil Corp. Your financial problems are your personal problems. Don't bring them to work. And you're kind of like, that's not the answer I was expecting to hear, but that's the answer that I got. All right, so our closing monologue. So it gave me this little segment, another weird epic economist vibe here. US worker productivity is up 60% since the 1970s, but wages, they barely moved. The CEO made 399 times the average worker pay in 2023. Average credit card debt is now over $7,000 and interest rates are criminal. I'll tell you that much. People really depended on those credit cards to get them through for the last couple of years, and I'm buried in so much credit card debt. It's coming out of my rear end right now. But they don't care. So let's end this video because it's getting to be a little long. They don't need you anymore, but they sure pretend they do, just long enough to squeeze every last hour out of you, just long enough to shame you for not being grateful. But here's the truth. The system already collapsed. They just covered it in influencers, Amazon Prime, and overpriced therapy apps so you wouldn't notice. So ask yourself, how long are you going to keep showing up to your own funeral? Wow, ChatGPT. That is the darkest ending I have ever made on this channel. When are you going to stop showing up to your own funeral? Holy crap. All right, I don't have anything else to say. I'm speechless.